Hello and welcome to CIS1300. Today I'll be talking about embedding things. A few weeks ago we had talked about using iframes, and we went into how to use iframes, the security of using iframes, how to not get yourself framed, all that kind of stuff. And today I'll be talking about a few things that we can embed into our websites, and we're going to embed those using frames. I do have another thing at the end of these three things that is not specifically embedding things, but we're going to do that anyway. We'll be doing an image tile set that I had mentioned a few weeks ago. We're going to go ahead and go over that today as well. So the Google Maps, YouTube, embedding PDFs, they're all pretty popular things that are done and web pages on websites, and that I won't go into other similar things like Vimeo and that. It's identical to YouTube. So if you've done YouTube, you can do the Vimeo or some other video services. If you're managing websites for any sort of municipality or anything similar to that, you're going to be doing a lot of posting of PDFs onto their site. A lot of municipalities, their PDF is pretty universal. They're going to be throwing PDFs around, and they're going to want to post it on the website. That's just what it is. So PDFs are very, very common. For other purposes, YouTube videos are going to be very common as well, and Google Maps. Any website that has a physical location, you're going to be benefited from embedding a Google Map on your site as well. So we'll put the map in first. Let's get onto that. So I don't. Here's the link to Google Maps. I'm not going to click on it and show you the actual Google Maps because, of course, Google is going to give away my position, and I've got shared maps on with family members, and they're going to pop up on my map as well. So I'm not going to share my map with you, but I've copied and pasted, screen grabbed all the instructions right here, and please follow on your own at Google Maps. So Google Maps is google.com/maps. You can do the same thing with other maps, but Google is by far going to give you the best map output in that, and you can even have visitors that come to your website. You have an embedded Google map, and they can even get directions right from there. They don't even necessarily have to leave your website, although they may, if they're clicking around, they may still leave your website. But they can get all that stuff directly from the page in your website where this map is embedded. That's the real benefit of embedding a map versus people would take a screenshot of a map and crop it and put that in there, or in even older times we would write down the steps or draw some kind of a map or something, give you directions from north, south, east, or west or something like that. It's much easier to just put a link to Google Maps and then embed the map itself right there. People can see where it is, and they can click directions. How do I get there? And if they don't have their privacy totally locked down, Google is going to say, oh, you can get there from your current position by going here. So very useful. First thing you do is you just find a location that you go to Google Maps and you find the location that you're putting a map to. So in my case, I'm at home. So if I were to go to Google Maps, first thing it would pop up is my home. And probably the same thing for you. So you're going to look up the place that you want. If it's a storefront or it's a municipality or whatnot, whatever the address is, you can type in the address, you don't have to get the link for it. You'll need the link for the link, but not for the embedding. So you click on the menu and then scroll down the menu about 2/3 of the way down or so. You'll see this as a share or embed map. By default, it's going to go to share and give you the link, which you could copy from the URL if you wanted, or just use the link that they put in there. It's trimmed and all that nice stuff that Google likes it. Or you click the tab next to it to embed the map. And you have some size options, small, medium, large, or custom size. I encourage you to use the custom size and put in exactly what size of the area that you want your map to be. Now, Google Maps, Google is really smart. So if you put it in, if you get the custom size that's really big and you put it in a thing that's pretty small, Google is going to kind of fix that for you. Alternatively, you can put percentages in here, and that will be fine as well. So you can just put 100% wide by X pixels high or Y pixels high and have at it that way. That will probably be the best option for any kind of responsive design. Right? A note about Google Maps, I have the note right here, is if you're using a content management system like WordPress or Drupal or something, and you have some map plugin like for events or whatever the case is, and it's going to use the Google Maps API to generate a map kind of on the fly to whatever the location is that you put on this page. Maybe you have an event and it's at X restaurant that holds events, and you want to put a map to that event. Now that will be built into this tool that you're using. But 2 years ago, I think it was, Google totally changed their use on that. It was free up until that point, no problems whatsoever. And then they changed it to say if you're going to use our API, they want some recompense for that. So you have to go through Google and make an app, basically register an app with them and get API keys from them, and use the keys in the tool and the plugin. Put the keys in there, and it will use your keys. And when people come and they visit your website, that's going to register a hit on the API. And depending on how many hits or API calls you have, Google is going to start charging you. Now, I've done this on a handful of websites outside of here that get mild amounts of traffic. And so far, Google has never charged more than a few cents per month. So it's not a big deal. It is something that has to get paid to Google. It's not 100% free, but it's pretty cheap. A few cents a month for an averagely busy website is not a big deal to put a map on there. It's well worth the price of that. So keep that in mind. But if you just go to Google Maps, you want a single location that's different than an on-the-fly location that a tool, a plugin or something will use, and they'll be using Google APIs. Those are two different things. If you're getting one location like we are here, that's free. No worries on that. You'll get the code. You can copy and paste this whole iframe right here, paste it into your site, into your page from wherever, and that's fine. You can do the same thing with a tool, and you could tell the tool don't do any maps, and then you can on your own do this every time. Sure, you can do that, and that's fine. You're not going to pay Google for it, but you're going to use your time instead. So, which is more valuable, a few cents a month or your time? The choice is yours. Moving on to next one. Embedding YouTube videos directly onto your site. So anybody can click a link and go to YouTube and watch the video. I've got a link right here for YouTube. But it's cooler to play the video directly from your page. So just like the maps, you go, instead of maps, you go to YouTube, run underneath the video next to the thumbs up and thumbs down button is a share button. By default, the share gives you the web URL for that YouTube video with this encoded pattern for the YouTube video. You can even check off whether you want it to start at a particular time in seconds, and that's all fun. and you can share on different social media apps as well, or click on the embed, which is the first option because it's pretty popular. That's going to open up this new screen. It's going to give you this iframe code to copy and paste, and have some options in here. You have the start up as well, or the start at certain time as well, and you have a couple more options like showing controls and things of that nature, just to kind of make it fit into your site a little bit. So if you hide the YouTube controls and then you play a YouTube video, it kind of makes it a little bit more of a seamless environment. So it's your website. It's not branded YouTube, not very loudly anyway. There's always going to be that little button in there so they can go to YouTube and watch the video, which is actually good for you as the developer, the site host, and that, because you're probably your company, you're going to have a YouTube channel for that company, whatever the company is. So if you're doing it for a restaurant, the restaurant's going to have other YouTube videos. So you have the one that's posted right there. And if somebody clicks to go to YouTube, now they're on your channel. They were always watching your video, generating YouTube ad revenue and whatnot. But now they go directly to your channel and can potentially see other videos of yours as well. So they've been on your website. They decided to watch a video, and then they decided to perhaps watch some more videos of yours. So you've not lost that visitor at all by putting a YouTube video on your site. It's probably even better to have them on your site. And then even if they do leave and go to YouTube, they're still yours, presumably, for a little while. Okay, so try these out. The homework assignment for this is going to be to put a YouTube into a page and get that working. These are the easier ones. The next one is a little bit harder because Google is not giving you the code. You've got to do it yourself, although I'm giving you the code right here. So the next is to embed a PDF into a page. First, you actually need a PDF. All right, that's going to be filename.pdf. Okay. You have to upload that to your website. In our case, we're using GitHub, so you have to upload that, and you have to find out the full URL for that, or the relative URL if you're using relative URLs. The internet is preferred to use full URLs. It makes all the things a lot simpler when you're migrating between domains or between hosts or any of that kind of stuff, or if you just need to do some big development stuff. You can edit maybe your database and whatnot, and you're changing things in the URL. Full URLs are much easier to work with. And you can move things around, and don't worry about it too much with full URLs. With relative URLs, you're going to have some more trouble with that kind of thing. But you'll need the URL. You can title it. You'll need the file name, I said. So I have 3 components here. The first is a link to the PDF. Okay, we have target blank, so it's going to open up in a new tab, and they won't lose the page that they're on, and they'll get to see full screen that PDF, however their browser displays it. The visitors should be well familiar with that. It can't be the first PDF they've ever viewed on a website. If it is, they're one of the lucky 10,000. Relationship alternate, because this is the primary, so we've gone and told the browser that these are going to be alternates. That's for accessibility and whatnot. We can give it a title so that if they mouse hover over there, the title appears, and not just this text as well, so they can also have a title. And then the text that I put in here is view full screen. So it's just going to be a link that says view full screen. And the next one is going to be a link that says download. Now this is a new one that will be new for you. I did not give it a target blank, but I did give it a download equals file name. And it's all uppercase just like the URL. So that means I want you to change the file name. Actually, I want you to change the title as well. I want you to change the file name, this does not have to be the actual name of the file. You can make this whatever name you want. So let's say your PDF is, it's got one of these long file names from the design group. It's XYZ PDF final. You've probably seen things like this, right? Where people have been editing them over time, and then they just make this longer and longer name. Very silly. Don't do that. Just put the numerical date at the end of your file, and then when you look at it, you'll say, oh, whichever one has the latest date must be the real one. And then they're all the same length, right? And they're organized by alphabetically. If you put your date, year, month, day, or alphabetical and chronological are the same thing. Anyhow, that would be the actual file name. This file name, whatever you type in there, is what when the user clicks on the download and they get that prompt, either in Windows or Mac or whatever it is, and it says save file as, and it gives you the suggested file name. That's what's going to be here, and it's really cool. You don't actually have to put in the extension. So if it's filename.pdf, you don't actually have to put the PDF part at the end. You can just put file name and call it whatever you like. Call it the same thing as the title if you want, and then when it says save file as, it'll show up as title.pdf. And operating systems are smart enough that even if you leave that off, they'll get it right most of the time anyway. So these are the alternative links. So if somebody wants to download or view in a full screen environment, they have the links right there. Now I know when you put the iframe in there and you actually show a PDF, the browsers are going to have buttons to do that anyway, but they're just little iconified buttons, and some of your users aren't going to be fully versed in how the internet works, and they're not going to know that they can download the PDF from the browser window that shows the PDF. So it's very nice and convenient for them and for you, because now they're your clients, to have these buttons ahead of time. So you put them right above the PDF, and then the iframe with the PDF, we give it the URL as the source. Make sure you give it a width and a height, so it's displayed properly, generally width of 100% and height of 800, unit list 800 pixels. Gives you usually a page view, a one page. Most PDFs probably are one page. If they're longer than one page, then displaying one page at a time is perfectly fine. If you're displaying more than one page and it's only one page, now you've got wasted space in there. So try and keep that height to whatever looks about one page, or even slightly shorter than one page is still fine, because people were perfectly fine with scrolling vertically. Additionally, you'll want to change this height to try and get it to be close to, but not bigger than, one phone screen height. So if somebody's on their phone and they get to that PDF spot and it's just a little bit smaller than their window, which gives them easier ability to scroll away from the PDF and scroll in the PDF without getting into some navigation nightmare, because they can only tap in that one little area. Okay, so make it a little smaller than a phone window. Test it out on a phone. And then we have this new thing in the iframe. When we went over iframes, we talked about how if the iframe is not supported, you put something inside the iframe content, and then that will be displayed to the visitor whose browser doesn't support iframes. So screen readers, for one example, or older browsers or not popular browsers may not support iframes. So we're going to go with this much older embed. And then the same information goes into the embed. It's a single line tag. It doesn't have an opening and a closing. It goes inside the iframe, and that's as a backup for those few users that the iframe is not going to work for. And that's how we do the PDF. I don't think I missed anything. I think we're pretty good. Okay, and moving on to my fourth thing today, image Tilesets. I have a link to a JS Fiddle, and I have a link to a tile set that I posted on Imgur, so you can download the image and I can use it in my JS fiddle. You can see the JS fiddle, and this is the pertinent styling that goes with it. So let me briefly talk about it, and then we'll open up the JS fiddle and we'll see exactly what it does and what it looks like. So in the image itself is about 500 by 200 pixels, 500 wide, 200 high, and it has a whole slew of 32 by 32 pixel icons of different social media accounts and common buttons that you may have on a website, like a menu button and a home button, search button, and email button, and that. So just full of icons. And if you were to display the full image, it would probably look stupid. But we're actually going to tell right here, we've told class icon that it's going to be a height and width of 32 pixels, which is exactly the height and width of each of the icons in this image. So we're going to force it to only show one of those things at a time. And by clearly defining the background size to be the exact size of the image, and then giving the background position. So we've given it a size. We know exactly what the background size is, so it's not going to be stretched or skewed or anything, because normally the background images, if you set nothing, it's generally not stretched and skewed. But we want to set it on purpose to make sure that it specifically is the exact right size. And then we're going to move that background image across the icon. Okay, we're not going to move the icon on the image. We're going to move the image behind the icon. Okay, if that makes sense. And that's why I have negative values in here. So in quadrant 3, for people who know math, in quadrant 4, for people who actually know math, in quadrant 4, the 0 point is in the upper left corner. Hopefully I don't get this backwards. Upper left corner to you as you're watching this. Okay, so it looks like this. So this will be the 0. Here's the x0 and here's the y0. So if we're moving in this plane, this upper left corner, this is where the 0 is. And when we're moving the image, so by default the image is in that plane, it's at 0, 0, and in order to get one of the other icons, we actually need to move it negative, because we're not moving the 0, 0 point, we're moving the image closer to the 0, 0 point. Okay, so that's why these are negative, and then these down here are negative. So this is the standard icon. By default, it's going to give me whatever icon is in 0, 0. And then I have a YouTube and a blog icon. So if it's an icon and it's a class YouTube, the only difference between the normal icon and the YouTube one is the positioning. So let me jump right ahead and show you the Imgur image. Okay, so here's the image. I believe I showed the class this image before. It just has a whole bunch of icons in there. So that's what we're talking about. We have this the 0, 0 position, and we have the image. And in order to get one of the icons to display in this little corner, because by default we're only going to see whichever one is right here. So if we want to see 4 icons over and 2 icons up, we need to negative move it this far over and this far up. And then we'll see this icon over here. Okay, so let's have a look at that JS fiddle. All right. I just have a couple of links in here, a link to a video on YouTube and a link to a barbecue blog. That's it, just those 2 links, and they have the classes. They have icon blog, icon YouTube. And that's all the classes that they have. That's all there is. Right? I've not even done any kind of accessibility, none of that stuff, just the href and the class. And I put a word in there, but you can't see the word in here, and we'll go over why in a moment. So first, I have a couple extra things that are not in the slide, like clear, none, and float left, and that's just for display purposes. It's not strictly required to make this work. The ones that are required to make it work are the height and the width. Okay, I've added margin of 1/4 EM to give a little bit of spacing in there, and padding of 0. kind of a habit for me that I make things padding of 0, and that's a unitless 0. Same thing with the margin. If you're going to do 0 and margin padding, make it unitless. Okay. Those are not required to make it work. The height and the width are required. Generally, display block is useful, but not strictly required. Color of RGBA, so that's red, green, blue, and alpha value, all zeros. You can make red, green, blue, whatever you want, but if you make the alpha value 0, that means that the text is going to be invisible. So over here, where it says YouTube and Code Up Barbecue, we don't see that in the icons over here. Okay, so the text is clear. I don't have like overflow hidden or anything because I have clear text, and if it does overflow, I'm not too worried about it because you can't see it anyway. Okay, if you really want it to be, you can make overflow hidden, but I gave it a strict height and width. So the position of the little icon is going to have its position, and even if that invisible text does overflow, it shouldn't affect anything else. Unless you're doing a float right, then you may get some z-index issue, and then you will want to do overflow hidden. Okay. The next, I have some background styling in here, which is the same. Background color is transparent, and I don't want the background to repeat. It is important that I have the background not repeat. On the off chance that I get something else wrong or it doesn't load properly, that's probably not going to happen. But if I were to code something wrong and the background repeated, then I'm going to get some erroneous response, even worse than if the background didn't repeat. Or if the background repeated and I got something really wrong, so wrong that it was right again, that would be weird, and I wouldn't want to continue on doing that. So I put background repeat in there. Then I told the background image is going to be URL, and this is the link that I get from Inger over here. They give you a direct link. They give you a handful of different links that are pretty cool to use. So that's the link that I get from them. The background size, that's the actual size of the image. You can change this and you can stretch and skew this image if that's the thing that you want to do. I've given it the actual size because I want to have 32 pixel icons. That's what they were designed to be, and that's what I want them to be. If you had a different icon set, a different tile set with a different size, and you wanted to skew it, maybe it was icons that were drawn 64 pixels, and now you wanted to show them in 32 pixels, you could shrink that down by half, and you can get it to be 32 pixels afterwards. It's not my case, it's 32 pixels, and I want it to be 32 pixels, so I put the actual size in there. Okay. Background position, this is the default icon one, so background position is going to be 0, 0, so the upper left portion, and I put the negative on there. Now, -0 doesn't actually be negative, but I put it on there in case I come look at this later on and I'm adding something. I never want to forget that they're supposed to be negative, so I put -0px. -0px. And then again, that would be actually this image right here. That would be the Facebook image in that icon set would be the 001. So the Facebook class icon doesn't actually need any special settings. They're special enough. Then I've given a border, just a 1 pixel solid white border on a white background, so it's an invisible border. This is actually pretty keen right here, okay? Keep an eye on that. An invisible border. It takes up its 1 pixel space. I gave it a border radius of 4 pixels, so very small radius, just to soften that corner. And then when you hover over the icon, I have 4 borders, a slightly different color border for each, the top right, bottom left, or top right, bottom left. Got to do it backwards for you. Slightly different color so that when I hover over this, it's just slightly a different color on each of the sides. Maybe I probably should have had even more of a color change on there so that it looks like it's 3D. Probably should have a little bit more. It's not quite noticeable enough. But the reason I have the invisible border And then when you hover, I do the border, because if I were to take this invisible border out and rerun this, okay, did you notice that those things moved just a little bit? They moved, the first one moved 1 pixel over, and the next one moved 2 pixels over, because the border goes all the way around on both sides, so it kind of doubled up. So they moved just that little bit, and then when I hover over it, it grows by that 1 pixel, okay? And especially this one, now it grows and it shifts the other one as well. So don't want to do that. I want to put my invisible border there first, and then when I hover, I put the real border in there with a different color, and that way you don't see that 1 pixel or 2 pixel shift. Or if I had a lot of these, that would be you wouldn't see the shift when it loads, but every time you highlighted one, you'd see all the ones to one side of it would move, and then the other ones on the other side wouldn't move, and the whole thing would drop down one pixel. It wouldn't be very well made. So we give it an invisible. I can actually put a real invisible, just like I did with the color, right? Actual alpha transparency in there. And then if I rerun that now, I don't have to have a white background. I can have any background color for the main area, and my border will still be an invisible border. Let me actually come into here and do this coloring a little bit better. Right, just give a little bit more spacing in the highlight color so that hopefully it looks 3D. It looks a little bit more 3D. So it's 1 pixel all the way around, but it's darker on the bottom left and lighter on the top right. And actually no two sides are exactly the same. So it's just a little bit different all around. Kind of looks a little bit 3D. It's more pronounced on the lighter shade one than it is on the red YouTube one. I think I don't have... Something appears to have changed and is not working right. Well, that's neither here nor there. But there you have that. Let me get back to my slide. All right, all of that. Great. Okay, so those are Google Maps, YouTube, PDF, all those things get embedded with an iframe. We went over iframes a few weeks ago. Very useful things on there. And then the tile set. You can do this, but they don't have to be squares. They can be rectangular, whatever shape and size. I just do it with icons most commonly, and it's the easiest to grasp as well. But tile sets, so that's one image with a lot of smaller images moved around in there, and we have to move. So here's like the little camera view, and we're going to move that in there. Okay. Keep in mind that negative positioning for these, all right, because you're not moving the starting location. You're moving the image toward the starting location. That's why it's negative. You're in quadrant 4 for those of us that know some math, not quadrant 3. All right. Okay. So that's my presentation today on embedding. I will have another presentation for your final project, and I'll have some more information updated on the class website and Blackboard as well. All right. Stay safe out there.